The Council of Seven Stars had stood for 12,000 years. Its great hall floated in the emptiness between galaxies, a monument to what organized minds could achieve when they worked together. The Valith had built it, though they were long gone now, their mathematical perfection having led them to conclude that existence itself was a problem without solution. They had simply stopped existing one day, leaving behind only their buildings and their equations. Now the hall belonged to the remaining 6 species who had proven themselves worthy of galactic civilization. The Crethani, whose crystalline bodies could process light into thought. The Morthax, ancient beings of compressed gas who remembered the first stars. The Quilith, insectoid creatures whose hive minds spanned entire solar systems. The Telvanni, graceful energy beings who existed partly in dimensions humans could not perceive. The Gorath, massive stone creatures who measured time in geological ages. And the Nexari, shapeshifters who had long ago forgotten their original form. Together, they had mapped every corner of the known universe. They had cataloged every possible form of faster-than-light travel. They had written the laws of physics into such precise mathematical language that no room remained for error or surprise. The universe was understood, contained, explained. And then humans arrived. Senior Observer Crethful stood at the great window of the council hall, watching the impossible ship drift closer. His crystalline body flickered with patterns of deep concern. Behind him, the other council members had gathered, their various forms of anxiety manifesting in their own unique ways. The Morthax representative had contracted to half its usual size. The Quilith ambassador's many eyes blinked in unsynchronized distress. Even the ancient Gorath, who had watched continents rise and fall with patient calm, seemed troubled. "The readings must be wrong," said Nexari Prime, its body shifting through a dozen forms as it spoke. "Our instruments are clearly malfunctioning." "Our instruments do not malfunction," Crethful replied. "They are based on Valith mathematics. They are perfect." "Then what we are seeing is perfect as well," said the Telvanni representative, its voice echoing from somewhere beyond normal space. "And what we are seeing is impossible." The human ship drew closer. It was ugly by galactic standards, a rough collection of metal plates and exposed wiring that looked more like a child's first attempt at construction than a vessel capable of crossing the void between stars. Humans had only discovered space travel 300 of their years ago. They had only encountered the Council 50 years past. In galactic terms, they were newborns, barely out of their cradles. Yet here was their ship, having crossed the distance from their home system in a time that should have taken 50 years. They had done it in 2 weeks. "This is Senior Observer Crethful of the Council of Seven Stars," he transmitted to the approaching vessel. "Please explain your method of propulsion. Our sensors detect no known form of faster-than-light drive." There was a pause, filled with the crackle of primitive radio communication. Then a voice came back, cheerful and unconcerned with the laws of physics it had just violated. "Hey there, this is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth vessel Stubborn Optimist. Sorry if we startled you. We just finished testing our new engine design. Pretty exciting stuff. Permission to dock and say hello." The council members exchanged glances of various kinds. Crethful felt his crystalline structure vibrate with uncertainty. In 12,000 years, no species had ever developed a propulsion method that the council could not explain. The mathematics simply did not allow for it. "Permission granted," he said finally, "but we will require a full technical explanation of your drive system." "Sure thing. Chief Engineer Martinez is already putting together a presentation. He's really proud of this one, says it's his best work yet. Though he said that about the last 3 engines too, so who knows." The transmission ended with a click that somehow managed to sound casual. Crethful turned to face his fellow council members. "Prepare the analysis chamber," he said. "Whatever this human engine is, we will understand it. We must understand it. The laws of physics are not optional." The Morthax representative expanded slightly, its gaseous form rippling with what might have been doubt. The laws of physics, it said slowly, are descriptions of what is possible. If something happens that our laws do not describe, then our laws are incomplete. Our laws are based on Valith mathematics, Krethful repeated. They are perfect. The Valith are gone, the Gorath rumbled, its voice like mountains shifting. Perhaps their perfection was not as perfect as we believed. The human ship docked with a clang that made several council members wince. The airlock cycled open, and out stepped two humans. Captain Chen was a small woman with dark hair and an expression of perpetual amusement. Chief Engineer Martinez was a large man with calloused hands and grease stains on his uniform. They looked around the magnificent council hall with the casual interest of tourists visiting a moderately interesting landmark. "Nice place," Martinez said. "Love what you've done with the anti-gravity. Classic Valith design, right? Those guys knew how to build." "You are familiar with Valith construction?" Krethful asked, surprised. "Oh yeah. We found one of their old research stations about 20 years back. Bunch of dead math and some really gorgeous architecture. Gave us some good ideas." Martinez pulled out a portable display unit that looked like it had been assembled from spare parts and optimism. "So, you want to see how the engine works?" "Please," Krethful said. Martinez tapped the screen, and a diagram appeared. It showed something that looked like a series of nested spheres, each one containing equations that Krethful did not recognize. "Okay, so you know how conventional FTL works, right? You either bend space around you, punch through to subspace, or ride gravitational waves. All three methods have hard limits based on the fundamental structure of reality. Can't go faster than X because space itself won't let you." "Yes," Krethful said, "this is basic physics." "Right, so what we did was ask a different question. Instead of asking, how fast can we go, we asked, what if we just went fast anyway?" There was a long silence. The council members looked at each other in confusion. "I do not understand," Krethful said finally. "Yeah, nobody does at first. See, the equations say you can't go faster than a certain speed, but the equations are just descriptions of how things usually behave. They're not rules that the universe has to follow. They're just patterns we've noticed." Martinez zoomed in on one of the nested spheres. "So we built an engine that just sort of ignores the patterns. It doesn't bend space or punch through to subspace. It just goes fast." "That is not possible," the Telvanni representative said from its higher dimension. "The mathematics clearly state—" "With respect," Captain Chen interrupted, "we're standing here after traveling faster than your mathematics say we should be able to travel. So either we're not really here, or the mathematics don't know everything." Krethful felt his crystalline structure vibrate with something he had not felt in centuries. It took him a moment to recognize it as doubt. "Show us the engine," he said. "We will examine it ourselves." The human ship's engine room was a mess. Wires hung from the ceiling. Control panels were held together with adhesive strips. Strange devices of clearly improvised construction hummed and clicked in ways that suggested they might explode at any moment. In the center of it all sat the engine itself. It should not have worked. Every sensor, every scan, every mathematical model said that it could not work. The energy flows were wrong. The dimensional matrices were impossible. The fundamental forces were being used in ways that violated not just the laws of physics, but basic logic itself. And yet it ran, smooth and quiet and impossible. "Beautiful, isn't she?" Martinez said with obvious pride. "Built her myself. Well, me and my team. Took us 3 years to figure out the theory and another 2 to make it actually work." "The theory," Krethful said slowly. "Show me the theory." Martinez pulled out a notebook, an actual paper notebook, filled with handwritten equations and diagrams. He flipped to a page covered in mathematical notation that Krethful had never seen before. "Here's the core principle. See, conventional physics treats the universe like a machine with fixed rules. but we figured out that it's more like a suggestion. A really strong suggestion that almost everything follows almost all the time. But if you push hard enough in just the right way, you can make the universe suggest something different. Krethful studied the equations. They were wrong. They were obviously wrong. They contradicted fundamental principles that had been established for billions of years. They also clearly worked. "This is not possible," he said. "And yet," Captain Chen replied with a smile. The council convened in emergency session for the first time in 4,000 years. Representatives from all 6 species gathered in the Great Hall, their various forms arranged in a circle around a holographic display of the human engine. The display flickered and glitched constantly, as if the sensors themselves were confused by what they were seeing. "We must understand this," Krethful said. "The implications are too great to ignore." "The implications are that our entire understanding of reality is flawed," the Quilith ambassador buzzed. "Every model we have built, every prediction we have made, every law we have written down is now questionable." "Only if we accept that the human engine actually works," the Nexari Prime replied, shifting uncomfortably. "Perhaps this is some kind of trick, a deception." "We have examined the engine," the Telvanni representative said. "It is not a deception. It genuinely operates outside the boundaries of known physics. The humans have achieved something that should be mathematically impossible." "Then how?" the Morthax asked, its gaseous form swirling with frustration. "How did a species barely out of their technological infancy accomplish what we have failed to achieve in 12,000 years?" The answer came from an unexpected source. The Gorath representative, who had remained silent through most of the discussion, shifted its massive stone body and spoke. "They did not fail to achieve it," the ancient being rumbled. "They did not try. We did not try. We accepted the mathematics as absolute truth and never questioned them. We saw limits and we obeyed them. The humans saw limits and they asked why." "The mathematics are truth," Krethful insisted. "They are based on observation and measurement and logical deduction. They describe reality as it actually is." "Do they?" the Gorath asked. "Or do they describe reality as we have always experienced it? There is a difference. The Valith were the greatest mathematicians the universe has ever known. They mapped every corner of existence with perfect precision, and then they ceased to exist because their perfect maps showed them no way forward." "What are you suggesting?" "I am suggesting that the humans have found a way forward that our maps did not show. Not because the way does not exist, but because we were not looking for it." The discussion continued for hours, then days, then weeks. Experts were brought in from across the galaxy. The greatest minds of 6 civilizations examined the human engine and the human theories and the human methods. None of them could explain how it worked. None of them could replicate the results. Meanwhile, the humans kept building. News arrived from Earth that a second engine had been completed and a third was under construction. Human ships were beginning to travel throughout their local space at speeds that should have torn reality apart. And nothing bad happened. The universe did not collapse. Physics did not break. The impossible simply became possible. Chief Engineer Martinez became something of a celebrity among the council species. Delegations of scientists arrived daily to interview him, to study his methods, to try to understand his thinking. He welcomed them all with cheerful patience. "The thing you have to understand," he explained one day to a group of Krethani researchers, "is that we humans are really good at ignoring rules that don't make sense to us. We've been doing it forever. Our entire history is full of people saying, 'You can't do that,' and other people saying, 'Watch me.' But these are not arbitrary rules," one of the Krethani protested. "These are fundamental laws of the universe." "Sure, but who wrote those laws? Not the universe. We did. We looked at how things worked and we wrote down what we saw, but seeing something and understanding it are different things. Just because we observed a pattern doesn't mean the pattern is required to continue. That is not how physics works. Martinez shrugged. Maybe not, but it's how engineering works. In engineering, you don't ask, is this allowed? You ask, does this work? If it works, you use it. If it doesn't, you try something else. We tried building engines that followed all the rules and they were slow. So we tried building engines that didn't follow the rules and they were fast. But how did you know it would work? We didn't, we just tried it anyway. This answer seemed to disturb the Crethani more than anything else. Their crystalline minds were built for certainty, for logical progression from premise to conclusion. The idea of trying something without knowing if it would work was almost incomprehensible to them. And yet the humans kept doing it, and it kept working. Over the next year, human engineering teams were invited to work on projects across the galaxy. Their approach was always the same. They would examine the existing technology, study the theoretical limitations, and then proceed to ignore those limitations entirely. Not through any systematic process or sophisticated methodology, but through sheer stubborn refusal to accept that something could not be done. They improved the Quileth communication networks by using a signal propagation method that theory said should result in instant degradation. The signals did not degrade. They enhanced the Morthax energy collectors by channeling forces that conventional wisdom said could not be channeled. The forces submitted anyway. They redesigned the Nexari shapeshifting technology by applying principles that violated basic thermodynamics. Thermodynamics apparently decided not to complain. Each success brought more confusion and more questions. The Council's scientists worked frantically to understand what the humans were doing, to find the underlying principle that made their impossible inventions possible. There had to be a pattern, a theory, an explanation that fit within the established framework of galactic knowledge. There wasn't. "I've been thinking about this for months," Crethful said to Captain Chen during one of her regular visits to the council hall. "And I still do not understand. Your methods make no sense. Your theories are contradictory. Your mathematics are often simply wrong by our standards, yet everything you build works." "Maybe that's the point," Chen replied. "Maybe making sense isn't actually required for something to work. Maybe the universe doesn't care whether we understand it or not. It just is what it is, and understanding is our problem, not its." But science is about understanding. Knowledge is about building frameworks that explain and predict. Without understanding, we have nothing. "You have results, isn't that something?" Crethful considered this. In all his centuries of existence, he had never prioritized results over understanding. Understanding was the goal. Results were merely evidence that understanding was correct. But what if understanding was wrong, and results were right? "How do you do it?" he asked finally. "How do you bring yourselves to try things that you know will not work?" Chen smiled. "We don't know they won't work, that's the secret. We have theories and equations and predictions, sure. But we also have a saying, the map is not the territory. Our descriptions of reality are not reality itself. They're just our best guesses based on what we've seen so far, and we've only seen a tiny, tiny fraction of what exists. But our theories are based on billions of years of observation. We have mapped the entire universe. You've mapped what you can see, but there's always more to see. New angles, new perspectives, new questions. The universe is bigger than any map can contain, and every time you admit that your map is incomplete, you create room for discovery." Crethful felt his crystalline structure shift in a way it had not shifted since he was young. It was an uncomfortable sensation, like having a fundamental part of his being rearranged. But it was also, he realized, something like hope. "Perhaps," he said slowly, "we have been limiting ourselves." "Maybe," Chen agreed. "But the good news is limits are optional. You just have to be willing to ignore them." Word spread through the galaxy. The humans were building something new, something that went beyond even their impossible engines, Something that, if the rumors were true, would change everything the galactic community thought they knew about the nature of reality itself. The project was called Aurora. It was being built in the outer reaches of the human home system, far from prying eyes and sensor arrays. But secrets were hard to keep in a galaxy full of curious species, and information leaked out piece by piece. They were building a ship. Not just any ship, but a ship designed to travel outside the known universe, beyond the borders of mapped space, beyond the edges of reality as the Council understood it. "It cannot be done," the Telvanni representative said when the rumors reached the Council. "The edge of the universe is not a place you can simply fly to. It is a conceptual boundary, a limit of existence itself." "The humans do not seem concerned about conceptual boundaries," Krethful replied. "But this is different. Their engines allow them to travel faster than should be possible, yes, but they are still traveling through normal space, through normal reality. What they are attempting now is something else entirely. They are trying to travel to a place that does not exist." "Perhaps it does exist," the Gorath rumbled. "Perhaps we simply cannot perceive it." "That is the same thing. If we cannot perceive it, if we cannot measure it, if we cannot interact with it, then for all practical purposes it does not exist." The humans might disagree. The humans disagree with everything. That is the problem. Despite the Council's concerns, they sent a delegation to observe the Aurora project. Krethful led the group personally, his crystalline body humming with a mixture of apprehension and curiosity. They arrived at the human construction facility to find it buzzing with activity. The ship itself was massive, easily 10 times the size of any human vessel that had come before. It bristled with devices that defied easy categorization, engines and sensors and projectors arranged in patterns that seemed almost random. Teams of human engineers swarmed over its surface, welding and wiring, and adjusting with the cheerful efficiency that Krethful had come to associate with their species. Chief Engineer Martinez met them at the entrance to the main construction bay. His uniform was more grease-stained than fabric, and he was grinning broadly. "Welcome, welcome. Great timing. We're just about to run the first full systems test. You can watch from the observation deck." "Before we observe," Krethful said, "I would like to understand what exactly you are trying to accomplish. The rumors are concerning." "Oh, the leaving the universe thing. Yeah, I can see how that would worry people." Martinez led them toward the observation deck, weaving through crowds of busy workers. "It's actually pretty simple in concept if you don't think about it too hard." "I always think about things hard. It is how I process reality." "Right, and that's your first problem. Thinking hard is overrated. Sometimes you have to feel your way through a problem instead of analyzing it." "I am a being of crystalline structure. I do not feel in the way you mean." "Everyone feels, you just do it differently." Martinez stopped at a large window overlooking the ship's engine core. "Okay, so here's the basic idea. The universe has an edge, right? A boundary beyond which there's nothing. No space, no time, no matter, no energy, just nothing. That is the current understanding, yes." "Current understanding, exactly. Based on what we can observe and measure. But what if the boundary isn't really the end? What if it's just the limit of what we can observe and measure? What if there's more out there that we can't see because our instruments are designed to detect things that exist, and whatever's beyond the boundary exists in a different way?" Krethful considered this. "That is a hypothesis without evidence." "All hypotheses start without evidence. Evidence comes when you test the hypothesis." "You cannot test a hypothesis about a place that does not exist by traveling to that place. If the place exists, the hypothesis is confirmed. If the place does not exist, you cannot travel there to disprove it." Martinez laughed. "See, that's the kind of logical trap that would stop most people. But we just asked ourselves, what if we travel there anyway? What if we build a ship that can go to places that don't exist?" That makes no sense. It makes perfect sense if you don't assume that existence is required for travel. We're not trying to go to a place. We're trying to go, period. The destination is secondary to the movement. The system's test began before Krethvel could formulate a response. The Aurora's engines powered up, filling the construction bay with a hum that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Then, slowly, the ship began to shimmer. It didn't move. It didn't accelerate. It simply began to exist less firmly than it had before. "What is happening?" the Quilith observer buzzed in alarm. "The ship is fatting." "Not fatting," Martinez said. "Stretching. We're extending its existence in directions that normal matter can't go, reaching toward the edge of reality and beyond." The shimmer intensified. The Aurora flickered like a badly tuned projection, its shape becoming uncertain. Parts of it seemed to exist in multiple places at once, while other parts seemed to exist nowhere at all. Then, for just a moment, it disappeared entirely. The construction bay was silent. The observation deck was silent. The entire universe seemed to hold its breath. The Aurora reappeared, solid and real and exactly where it had been before. But there was something different about it now. Something that Krethvel's crystalline senses could not quite identify but could definitely perceive. "It worked," Martinez said quietly. "It actually worked." "What worked?" Krethvel demanded. "What just happened?" Martinez turned to face him, and his grin was wider than ever. For approximately 3 seconds, that ship existed outside the universe. It was somewhere else. Somewhere that, according to everything we know, shouldn't exist. But where? What did it find? That's what we need to figure out. The sensors recorded data from those 3 seconds. Lots of data. Data that shouldn't be possible to record because it describes things that shouldn't exist. Martinez pulled out his battered portable display. "Look." The screen showed readings that Krethvel did not recognize. Energy signatures that followed no known pattern. Dimensional measurements that indicated more dimensions than the universe was supposed to contain. And something else, something that made his crystalline structure vibrate with pure shock. "There was something out there," Martinez said. "Not empty nothing. Actual something. A different kind of reality, maybe. A place where the rules we know don't apply because they're the wrong rules for that place." "This changes everything," Krethvel said. "That's kind of our specialty." The discovery sparked a revolution in galactic science. The data from the Aurora's brief journey outside the universe was studied by millions of researchers across hundreds of worlds. Theories were proposed, tested, and discarded. New mathematics were developed to describe what the sensors had recorded. Ancient assumptions were questioned and often abandoned. But the humans were not content to study. They were already planning their next step. "A full expedition," Captain Chen announced to the Council 3 months after the first test. "A proper journey beyond the boundary. Not 3 seconds, but 3 hours. Long enough to explore, to understand, to make real discoveries about what exists outside everything we know." "The risks are incalculable," the Telvanni representative said. "You would be traveling to a place where none of your technology is designed to function. You could be destroyed, lost, transformed into something unrecognizable." "Yes," Chen agreed. "We could. But we could also find wonders beyond imagination. We could discover new forms of existence, new possibilities, new ways of being. We could bring back knowledge that reshapes how every species in the galaxy understands reality. Or you could die. That's always a possibility. It was a possibility when humans first left Earth. It was a possibility when we first built faster-than-light ships. It was a possibility when we met you and joined the galactic community. Every step forward involves risk. The question is whether the potential gain is worth it. And you believe it is." Chen smiled. "I believe that standing still is its own kind of death, slow and safe and boring. I'd rather take my chances with the unknown." The Council debated for weeks. Many argued against the expedition, citing the danger and the uncertainty. But Krethvel, who had spent months studying human methods and thinking about human philosophy, spoke in favor. "We have spent 12,000 years mapping the known universe," he said. "We have cataloged every star, every planet, every phenomenon that exists within the boundaries of our reality. And in all that time, we have discovered nothing truly new. We have only refined our understanding of what we already knew." "That is the nature of a mature civilization," the Nexari Prime argued. "We have learned what can be learned. Further discovery is unnecessary." Is it, or have we simply stopped looking? The humans have shown us that our maps are incomplete. They have proven that our understanding is limited, and now they offer us a chance to expand both, to see beyond the edges of everything we thought we knew. Krethvel's crystalline form flickered with conviction. "I say we let them try, and I say we go with them." The vote was narrow, but in the end, the council agreed. The Aurora expedition would proceed, and for the first time in thousands of years, representatives from the 6 council species would join a human crew on a journey into the genuinely unknown. The departure date arrived on a morning that, for the humans at least, felt like any other morning. They gathered at the Aurora's launch facility with the casual confidence of people who had made impossible journeys before and expected to make many more. The alien crew members were considerably more nervous. Krethvel stood at the boarding ramp, watching his fellow council representatives approach. The Quilith had sent a single scout drone, operated remotely by their hive mind. The Morthax representative had compressed itself to a fraction of its normal size for easier accommodation. The Telvanni observer had partially shifted into higher dimensions, appearing as only a faint shimmer of light. The Goreth had declined to send anyone, citing the impracticality of fitting a mountain-sized being into a spacecraft. The Nexari Prime had volunteered personally, its shape-shifting ability allowing it to adapt to any environment they might encounter. "Ready?" Captain Chen asked, appearing at Krethvel's side. "I do not know," he admitted. "I have prepared extensively. I have studied the Aurora's systems. I have reviewed all available data from the initial test. I have consulted with experts across multiple disciplines, and yet I feel entirely unprepared." That's how you know you're doing something worth doing. If you felt completely ready, it would mean you weren't pushing your limits. Human wisdom is strange. Human wisdom is practical. We do what we have to do and figure out the rest as we go. They boarded the ship. The Aurora's interior was remarkably spacious for a human vessel, with accommodations designed to suit multiple species. Krethvel found himself assigned to a crystalline meditation chamber that had been constructed specifically for his use. The attention to detail surprised him. "Chief Martinez built it," Chen explained when he commented. "Said he wanted everyone on the crew to feel at home. Spent 3 weeks researching Krethani environmental preferences." That was unnecessary but appreciated. That's Martinez. He cares about the small things as much as the big things. Says that's how you build something that really works. The launch sequence began. The Aurora's engines hummed to life with that same everywhere-at-once sound that Krethvel remembered from the test. Displays throughout the ship lit up with readings that made no conventional sense but somehow felt coherent. "All hands, this is Captain Chen. We are beginning our departure. Transit time to the boundary is approximately 4 hours at standard drive. Once we reach the boundary, we will engage the reality-stretching system and proceed beyond. Estimated time outside normal space, 3 hours. Estimated time of return, 8 hours from now. Good luck to all of us." The ship accelerated smoothly, leaving the solar system behind in a matter of minutes. Krethvel watched the stars slip past through a viewport, trying to process what he was about to experience. For 12,000 years, the council species had built their civilization on the assumption that reality was known, mapped, understood. Every discovery had simply been another data point on an existing chart. Every innovation had been an improvement to established technology. Nothing had truly surprised them because they had believed there were no surprises left. The humans had shattered that belief. And now Krethvil was hurtling toward a destination that should not exist, on a ship that should not work, with a crew that should not have been able to accomplish any of this. He felt, for the first time in centuries, truly alive. The 4 hours passed quickly. The Aurora reached the boundary of known space and began its approach to the edge of the universe. Sensors recorded increasingly strange readings. Space itself seemed to thin out, becoming less substantial the closer they got. Engaging reality stretching system, Martinez announced over the ship's communication channel. Everyone find a stable position and hold on. This is going to feel weird. It did feel weird. Krethvil's crystalline structure vibrated in ways it had never vibrated before. His perception of space and time became uncertain, stretching and compressing in ways that defied description. He saw things that he could not name, shapes and colors and patterns that did not correspond to anything in his extensive memory banks. Then suddenly, everything was still. "We're through," Chen's voice said. "We're outside." Krethvil moved to the nearest viewport and looked out. What he saw defied all understanding. The universe they had left behind was visible as a distant sphere, glowing faintly in a void that was not truly empty. Around them, other shapes floated in the darkness. Other universes, perhaps, or something else entirely. Something that the Valith mathematics had never predicted because the Valith had never looked. "The sensors are recording everything," Martinez reported. "Energy signatures, dimensional measurements, everything. We're getting data that will take decades to analyze." "There's more," the Nixari Prime said, its voice uncertain. "I can feel something, out there in the void, something alive." Krethvil felt it too. A presence vast and patient, watching them with something like curiosity, not hostile, not welcoming, simply interested. "Hello," Chen transmitted on every frequency the Aurora could produce. "We are travelers from within. We come in peace." For a long moment nothing happened. Then, slowly, a response came, not in words or signals but in direct understanding, meaning transferred without the need for language. "Welcome," the presence seemed to say. "We have been waiting." "Waiting?" Chen asked. "For us?" "For anyone, for a long time. Your universe is young, and you are the first to find the door." "There's a door." "Many doors, many universes, many kinds of existence, all connected if you know how to look." The presence showed them things, images and concepts that flooded their minds with wonder and possibility. Infinite realities stretching in infinite directions. Beings of pure thought and beings of solid matter and beings that existed in ways that defied categorization. A cosmos so vast and complex that their entire universe was just one small room in an endless mansion. And through it all, a single message. There was more to discover, always more. No matter how much you learned, no matter how far you traveled, there would always be new frontiers to explore. "This is incredible," Krethvil whispered. "This is what we came for," Chen replied. They spent their 3 hours outside the universe learning what they could, recording what they saw, communicating with the presence that had greeted them. When the time came to return, they did so with reluctance but also with purpose. "We'll be back," Chen promised as the Aurora's systems prepared to re-enter normal space. "This is just the beginning." "It is always just the beginning," the presence replied. "That is the nature of existence. There is no end, only new beginnings." The transition back was easier than the transition out. Perhaps because they knew what to expect now. Perhaps because the universe welcomed them home. They emerged into normal space with their sensors full of data and their minds full of wonder. The return journey to the council hall was triumphant. News of their discovery spread throughout the galaxy, and crowds gathered to greet them at every stop. The council species that had feared the expedition now celebrated it. The humans that had been seen as reckless newcomers were now recognized as pioneers. But the true celebration came in the council hall itself, where Krethvel presented the expedition's findings to the assembled representatives. "We were wrong," he said simply. "For 12,000 years we believed that we had mapped the universe, that we understood the laws of physics, that we knew the limits of what was possible. We were wrong about all of it. The universe is larger than we imagined. Reality is stranger than we knew. And there are more wonders waiting to be discovered than we could explore in a million lifetimes. The humans showed us this, not through superior intelligence or ancient wisdom, but through simple refusal to accept limitations. They looked at our perfect mathematics and asked, what if we're wrong? They looked at our unbreakable laws and asked, what if we break them? They looked at the edge of existence and asked, what's on the other side? And they went to find out. We can learn from them, not their technology, though that is valuable, not their methods, though those are effective, but their spirit, their willingness to question everything, their belief that impossibility is just another word for not yet attempted. The Valith mapped the universe with perfect precision and then gave up because their maps showed no way forward. The humans drew imperfect maps and then wandered off the edges to see what they could find. And they found everything. That is the lesson. That is the gift they have given us. Not just new engines and new discoveries, but a new way of thinking, a way that does not accept limits, a way that does not stop at the boundary of the known, a way that asks why not, instead of why. We have been a council of 6 stars for 12,000 years. Today, I propose that we become a council of 7. Not because the humans have earned it through accomplishment, though they have, but because they have something we need, something we had lost so long ago that we forgot we ever had it. Wonder. The vote was unanimous. Humanity joined the Council of 7 Stars, not as junior members but as full partners in the exploration of existence. The Great Hall gained a new delegation, and the galaxy gained a new perspective. And somewhere, beyond the edge of everything, a vast presence watched with satisfaction as the children of the universe took their first steps into the infinite. There was always more to discover, always new frontiers to explore, always impossible things waiting to be made possible. The humans had understood this from the beginning. Now finally, so did everyone else.